Welcome to Black Expat Stories, the show where we dive deep into the experiences of Black people across the diaspora who have boldly decided to immigrate abroad in search of a better life. I'm your host, Courtney Bowden, and I'm a Black American writer who also took the leap of faith and moved overseas. Coming to you from my home in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, I'm taking you on a virtual voyage to meet two trailblazers who are empowering Black women to reimagine their lives and write new life chapters. You're going to meet Stephanie Perry and Roshida Dowe, the dynamic duo behind the ExodUS Summit. This annual event has become the go-to sabbatical summit for Black women travelers ready to plan their career breaks or their moves abroad. Now in its fifth year, the ExodUS Summit is one of the most highly anticipated events in the Black travel space and has been featured in publications like Essence, Condé Nast, and more. With a vibrant, highly engaged community of over 18,000 Black women, it's a treasure trove of inspiration and practical guidance for those looking to take that leap. In this episode, we'll unpack Stephanie and Roshida's transformative journeys from the constraints of corporate America to the freedom of global citizenship. We'll explore how and why they've joined forces to revolutionize the concept of the sabbatical and early retirement for Black women. We'll also dive into some other thought-provoking topics like why these high-achieving ladies are now rejecting the concept of Black excellence, their take on the upcoming U.S. election, and what is exciting them right now about the emerging blaxit movement. From funding strategies for your move abroad to candid discussions about the political climate fueling this exodus, our conversation promises to challenge your perspectives and inspire your own journey of reinvention. Here's my conversation with Roshida and Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie and Roshida. Welcome to Black Expat Stories.
Hello.
I'm so thrilled to have you both here with me today. How are you doing?
Doing well. Happy to be home.
We're doing great. We're excited to be here.
So I'm really glad to hear that. And before we dive in, I want to just say how much I admire the work that the both of you are doing. You're truly showing Black women everywhere how possible it is to reimagine their lives and write new chapters. And it's incredibly inspiring, which is exactly why I've been looking forward to this conversation. So now I know that we have folks listening and watching from all over who may not be familiar and maybe hearing your stories for the first time. So Stephanie, if you don't mind, I'd love to begin with you. Your journey to expathood is pretty incredible. You went from working in pharmacy to traveling the world and helping Black women take career breaks. What inspired you to take a sabbatical for yourself? And why do you believe Black women need them?
I originally just wanted to take a sabbatical, a career break, a gap year, because I wanted to travel to some places that my job was making it impossible for me to go to. I had vacation time at work and PTO, but anytime I would put in a request, they would give me like 5 days, they'd give me 3 days and not 3 consecutive days, right? And so if I wanted to go to Southeast Asia, if I wanted to go to Europe, in Australia, I was going to have to do something other than just take my regular vacation days. I was going to have to take some drastic action to see the world. The reason, though, that I think that Black women need it, and I think it's the best thing a Black woman can do for herself, is that we are so accustomed to wearing the badge of hard worker, workhorse, that we don't even recognize it. We don't recognize how work-centric our lives are. We don't recognize how much we're expected to do until we get to take that badge off, take the whole costume off, and find out what's really underneath. I think that there's nothing better that we can do for ourselves than take time in your adult life when you don't work, when you're not obligated to be anywhere and do anything in particular, and you get to exercise the actual freedom that we say we have in our lives. I love career breaks, sabbaticals, gap years, because it changed my whole life.
Wow. And as you were talking, I was thinking about something that Zora Neale Hurston once said, is that the Black woman is the mule of the world, right? And so we're expected to carry all of these burdens and keep going, almost like the Energizer Bunny. And what I hear you saying is that it's important for us to take that break. And two, I believe that rest is also part of the work, and we don't talk about that nearly enough. So I'm really glad that you were able to take that sabbatical, change your life, and also help other women do the same. So Roshida, Your story is equally as fascinating. You're out here living your best life as a retired woman in her 40s. That is uncommon these days, and it's really inspiring, especially in the US, where we're having conversations right now about raising the retirement age to nearly 70, right? So how were you able to hit fast forward on retirement, and what finally made you say, that's it, I'm out of here, and chuck the deuces to the US and your law career?
So it's a great question. For some background, I started working when I was 12. Before I retired, 2 6-month periods from the time I was 12 where I was not going to school and working, or one or the other all the time, right? And so when I got to 38, I was tired. I already been working 26 years. And one of the things I heard from women when I retired early was like, well, I've been working longer. You don't deserve it. I've worked so much longer. I've been working for 30 years. I'm working for this. And it hurt a little, but not personally. It hurt that this woman felt like she couldn't or didn't have a break. She couldn't have one or wouldn't take one, because some women just won't take one. And so she was telling another Black woman that they don't deserve, right? The thing that she doesn't seem to be seeking for herself, or if she is, maybe she can't achieve yet, but maybe she can one day. I know all of our stories are different. Like I said, if I was doing an extracurricular activity in school, like even high school, I had to pay for it, right? Like I wanted to be on the track team. I had to buy those shoes, right? Like I had to pay for all the meets. So college, I had to pay for that. Nobody else paid but me, right? Tired. And so when the company I was working for went out of business, I was like, what if I just took a year off, right? And then taking a year off, once you take a year off, it's so hard to go back. It's almost impossible to go back. And so I always looked at my story as like, if I can tell my story and I can inspire a woman who thinks, oh, I haven't been working hard enough or long enough to take a break. You know what I mean? Like I'm not 60, I'm not 70, I'm not at retirement age. I can't do that yet. If a woman can see my story and say, maybe it is possible for me, right? Like, I think I've done my job. And so, yeah, my story is I worked a really long time. I worked in positions that made it hard to work and made it very unpleasant. And so when I got a break, I was like, let's take a break, right? That layoff, I've been laid off twice. Both times were a blessing, right? Both times changed my life. And it was just seizing that moment and doing the thing that my body needed, and then seeing whatever happened on the back end happened, right? Like,
yeah, it's really interesting how the response that you got about your decision to retire. I happen to be fortunate enough to have an example in my own life. My mother retired, her first retirement, and then she went back to work, but she retired initially at 45. And I believe she got some of the same pushback as well. And, you know, it can be hurtful and it can be jarring, because it's like, what do you mean you've been working longer? What do you mean I don't deserve it? And I just really think that you are a shining example of what I believe our ancestors dreamt of. I don't believe our ancestors dreamt of endless labor. I believe they dreamt of the ability, the freedom to travel the world like we do, the freedom to connect, and the freedom to really listen to our own bodies and take care of them. So kudos to you for doing that, even in the midst of all of that pushback. For our listeners who may not be watching and they may not be able to see the lower thirds here, where are each of you calling home these days, and what drew you to those places?
I spend half of the year now. For the last 3 years, I've spent half of the year in Costa Rica. I'm a house sitter, so I do a lot of bopping around to different places. And I do spend a couple months out of the year back in the United States. But I'm in San Jose, Costa Rica, where I'm here because San Jose or Costa Rica is a place where you can have community. You know, some places you can move to, but you may never be not welcome. You're always going to be an outsider. My brief experience with Costa Ricans years ago helped me to think, at least, that if I moved to Costa Rica, I could have a full life. I could have friends. I could have community. I wouldn't have to be on my own and just be a stranger in a new place. I could be welcome there. That's why I'm here. Food is not the top choice. Costa Rica is not a place you move to for
really
food. No, rice and beans all day, every day. Okay, you have to be okay with that. The food
I'm a rice and beans girl, so I love it.
Okay, you can do it then. Come on down. I think the people in Costa Rica, seriously, are some of the best people in the world. And that was a big draw for me, a big reason for me to come here. It's also a place where you can get to a lot of other places relatively easily. Mexico, easy for me to get to. Panama, easy. I'm about to go to Ecuador, easy to get to. So it's a nice location. It's a nice place with nice people.
That's beautiful. And Roshida, what about you? Where are you calling home these days? And what made you say, this is the place for me?
I have lived in Mexico City since 2019. I visited a few times before I moved here, and every time I came, I fell a little bit more in love with it. And one time I had a friend meet me here for New Year's, and we got to our hotel, dropped our bags, went for a walk, and within like a minute of being outside of the hotel, I said, why don't I live here? And my friend just looks at me and says, well, why don't you? And I was like, wait. That was one of the rhetorical questions, girl. Like, you have to because now, like that. Like, it wasn't a real question in my mind. It was just one of those, like, la, da, da, da. And when she said it, I was like, huh, okay, so why don't I? And I was in the middle of my 1 year around the world break, my career break. And when I left the Bay Area, my plan was to move back to the Bay. But by the time I left in May, this was January. By the time January or end of December rolled around, I was like, I don't want to go back there. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but like I had planned on taking my break and then stepping entirely back into my old life. But on my break, I became a new person who wouldn't fit in my old life. And I was like, a new place is a chance for a new beginning. And so I took the chance. I love it here. Food is amazing. I have it up. Mexico City has it over Costa Rica. The food is outstanding. It's a mega city, and I am a big city girl. I didn't know this until I started traveling some more. Give me the massive, humongous city. That's me. I always say that Mexico City is like New York, but with kind people, nice, kind people. It's fast paced. It's busy. There's something always happening, but at the same time, I have the community that Stephanie talked about. People I love are here. It's easy for people to get to. I've had more people visit me here in Mexico City than when I spent 10 years in Columbus, Ohio. Woo! My mom, I could not get her out of my apartment when I first moved down here. She go home. Eventually, she ended up moving to Merida, Mexico, because she loved Mexico so much, but she didn't want to live in the big city. She wanted a place where she could have like a backyard to grow things. Jamaicans. Anyway, she wanted the backyard. And so she did that. But yeah, it's one of those cities that I always tell people, like, you're either going to love it or hate it. There's really very people who are in between. They love it or hate it. And I always find more people love it than hate it.
Yeah, I really love Mexico City. As a matter of fact, I'm headed there next weekend for my third time. And I feel like every time I go, I just scratch the surface because, like you said, it's a mega city. There's so much to do, so much to see, so much good food to eat. Mm-hmm. And so it is a place that I know I'll return to again and again. Now, I have not been to Costa Rica yet, but it is definitely on my list. And so I'll have to check out San Jose when I do go, Stephanie.
Yeah, so San Jose is Rashida's not shaking her head. San Jose is not the draw in Costa Rica. Go to the beaches, go to Limon, right? Go to the beaches. San Jose is a little drab and a little dull. It just fits my needs. I think it's not worth a visit. It's one of those places. It's a decent place to live, but I wouldn't come on vacation here. Right?
Got it. Okay.
You're going to be bored. You're going to be bored. It's going to be raining. It's not the most exciting place by a lot.
Okay.
It's quiet. It's a little sleepy city. It's probably the least cityest city you can imagine.
Well, it sounds like it has been charming for you and it fits, like you said, your needs. So that's awesome. And it's amazing how two different paths can lead to similar destinations. So Roshida, you live in Mexico City. Stephanie, you are in Costa Rica for part of the year. So how did the two of you meet? How did your paths cross? And what made you two ultimately decide to become business partners?
So
Roshida and I both took some time to travel the world, and we both documented it on Instagram. And we both had an Instagram follower named Courtney. Yeah, Courtney. Her name was Courtney. And she was like, oh, she's outlived her life, right? She was like, you should meet, So she DM'd us both and was like, do you know Roshida? Do you know Stephanie? Stephanie, do you know Roshida? And we both had YouTube channels, or Roshida had a YouTube channel. I think we both had YouTube channels at the time. Roshida was like, oh, let's talk on my YouTube channel. And that was the beginning of our friendship and what we didn't know, a business partnership. And it was just because we were out talking about the things that we were doing, and we were attracting the same type of people. The same person was like, oh, you guys need to know each other. The wonders of the internet.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
So
absolutely.
That was spring of 2019. In the fall of 2019, she approached me about doing something together on YouTube. And it was low stakes. YouTube, neither one of us was monetized. It was like, we'll do this series. We'll talk to people who are traveling around the world, taking breaks, and see what happens. And just do it. That was it. We're just going to do this. And it went well, right? We worked together well. There were no issues. And then late summer of 2020, she shows up again. I mean, we're still talking in the mix, but right. Shows up again. She says she has a deck, but I did not see the presentation. She showed up on my phone talking about, we should do a summit together. And I was like, no, but I guess yes. Okay.
What made you say no initially?
Because she didn't say no.
No, I said yes, but in my brain, I was like, that's because backing up, one of the people we interviewed in that video series told us we should do an event. And when she said it, I thought about in person, and I was like, oh, absolutely not. I'm so sorry. This is fall of 2019, right, Steph?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
December.
I was like, no. Yeah. And then COVID happened, and we're in the house, and everyone's online. So finally I was like, okay, sure, let's do this. My brain is like, I don't know about this, but we did it. The one thing we haven't told you yet is that, or that your audience may not have picked up on yet, is that we've never met. So we did our first summit without ever meeting each other in person. We met, was it January the next year or winter?
I think it was springtime the next year.
It was springtime. We were both in I was in Mexico City and she was in San Miguel de Allende. So it's a 4-hour bus ride. I took the bus out there with my mom. We went out and met her. And so, we had already done 2 business things together before we actually ever met in person.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But that's the power of, the internet, social media. And also I find that in this expat immigrant lifestyle, you often come across people who are just, aligned with their values and with the way that they see life. And so, I've made some of the most beautiful connections here as well. And the two of you joining forces have now created what's arguably one of the most highly anticipated annual events in the Black travel space. So for Black women who are, let me back up. Let's talk a little bit about the ExodUS Summit. Let's just talk about what it is, who it's for, and why you believe it's necessary right now.
We think that when more Black women realize what life could be, they are more open to trying something different. So the reason that ExodUS Summit exists, the reason our conference exists, is that we want Black women to see other Black women trying things a different way, right? Moving abroad, traveling around full time, taking career breaks and sabbaticals, plural, right, in their lives. And we want to bring in other Black women who can say, here's how I've done it. Not just, you should do it. Not just, it's great, you should do it. But here's how I did it. Here are the steps that I took. Here are the first, approaches that didn't work. Here are some things that did work. It's a way for people to share what they know, and for the women who are interested to learn, to really get the information and also the community, because we have the women in the ExodUS Summit world have a desire to live life a different way. And there's no way to live differently when there's so much pressure and pull to keep going on this path that we're already on. We are supposed to be Black excellence, not Black rest. Right? We're supposed to be exhausted, not rested. We're supposed to put other people's dreams and desires ahead of our own. And so, because we want to do something really differently, we have to create a place where it's normal. So inside of Exodus Summit, this kind of thing is normalized, and we bring in other people to explain to them just how normal it is, so that they can then, the women who attend, the women who are part of our community, can then see it as a real possibility. Dr. Joy Harden Bradford from Therapy for Black Girls calls it possibility models, right? So people can see that it's a real possibility and not just a daydream, just like a fantasy. It's something that can actually happen. So that's why our event exists. That's why our community exists.
I think it was Fannie Lou Hamer that said, nobody's free until everybody's free. And it's that idea that like, as so often Black women are leading from the back or possibly leading from the bottom, right? In the sense that like, we're tasked with saving so many things, institutions, people, the world, while also given so little resources and, all the things we need. And so it's kind of like, if you put on your own oxygen mask first as a Black woman, then see what the world looks like to you, right? Then see what you can do. And that's not a sort of like it, for some people that sounds selfish, right? But nobody's coming to save you. So if you're not I'm selfish. I got to save myself. Moving abroad changed my life. My mom saw me move abroad, saw what my life was like here, and moved to Merida, and will tell anybody any day of the week her quality of life has increased tremendously moving from Florida to Mexico, right? And so in that sense, my selfishness helped save a member of my family, right? And I want other Black women. So the summit is for Black women and families. It's the attendance. We want to be a safe space for Black women, which is why we always say it's for Black women. But we want Black women with families to know that they can be the one in the family unit to say, this is a new idea. It might be scary, but look at all these other people. Look at all these other families, all these other parents, all these other couples. If they can do it, maybe we can do it too, right? Like when we all put on our own mask first, we're saving ourselves and therefore maybe saving someone else. And so it's really important to us that we do this, because otherwise I'd be laying on my couch right now eating plantain chips and drinking a rum and Coke, right? Like there's like, surely, Stephanie and I talk about this all the time, but like we do this for Black women because we know that, I don't want to say nobody else is, but like it's not being done enough, right? Not enough Black women are looking out for themselves. And right, it's important to me as someone who was drowning at a job while also being Black and excellent, right? I would have died there, right? Like I know the stress from that job, what it was doing to my body, it would have killed me. And there's in a lot of the roles we fill, whether that's at work, in our family or our community, there is no path to exit. There is no path to release. There is no, you'll be done being the caretaker when X happens, right? Because a lot of us are a sandwich generation. You got kids, you got parents. What you gonna do? Like, where is your free time? When do you get that? When do you get to take care of yourself? And the answer is, a vacation once or twice a year and maybe a massage at the spa. But that's not it. That's not giving you the rest. That's not doing what you need for yourself. Right. And maybe for some people it is. Maybe y'all live in low stress lives. I was not. Right. But moving abroad doesn't solve all your problems. What it does is it gives you a new place to start. Right. And it gives you a new situation to deal with. Right. Like moving here, my life is extremely easy compared to what it would be in the US. Right? I can walk everywhere I want to go. I don't have to pay for a car. I don't have to pay for car insurance. The bus stop's right outside. I will get on the bus and all of those things. And it's a different, depending on what you want, it's going to be different for everyone everywhere you go. But the possibility for your life is so different when you get to build it from scratch, when you get to say, I don't want to experience X anymore. So I'm going to move to a place where I don't have to deal with X, right? That's what we want for when we deal with.
And that's so empowering. I'm really happy that you mentioned this idea of being selfish, because it's a point of conflict for so many Black women who may be watching and listening right now who are considering a move abroad. And I often think about what Audre Lorde said: caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. And God, do those words ring true now more than ever before. And I'm really happy that you both have created this space for us to come and dream and plan and exit, and really just eliminate a lot of the stressors and extract ourselves from environments that no longer serve us.
So yeah, that's right. We really just don't realize what we're going through until we're out of it, right? You really don't realize how much of your day, how much of your life is struggle until the struggle is over. And you're like, oh, this is what it feels like to just feel good. This is what it feels like to be treated like a human, right? This is what it feels like to move about the world as myself and not like a representative of a race or a gender or whatever, or a class, right? We don't realize until it's over. So that's why we just like expedite the process, get us there a little bit faster.
This is what it feels like to move around without fear, right? Without wondering what another person is thinking. Is this a safe person or unsafe? Right? That I don't have it anymore. Listen, you might be talking smack about me for some reason, but it's in Spanish. And I got a lot of words, but I'm not fluent. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get that sense in my day to day of like, is this person unsafe for me the way I do when I'm in the US, right? When like the old woman sitting next to me, I have earbuds in and she starts talking. I'm like, wait, is this a friendly conversation or a like what? That happened to me at the airport the other day. And I was like, I'm a little paranoid about talking to strangers here because I just don't know what it's going to be. And I don't have that here because people leave me alone or they like say nice things. Or I think it's nice because I didn't get all those words. It's fine. It's fine.
You're right. And that does wonders for your self-concept and just your outlook
and your nervous system,
right?
Your nervous system?
Come on, talk about it. Talk about it. Yes.
Well at night because I ain't got to work.
Come on.
Nobody.
Stephanie, you mentioned something a little bit earlier about Black excellence. And I kind of want to dig into that because I came across something that you said. Maybe it was a video or a post or something. And you were essentially advising folks that we should resist this idea of Black excellence and stop striving for so much. So can you talk a little bit about your ideas around that? Because I know people will be like, what? Because we throw around that phrase all the time and a lot of us wear it with a badge of honor. So what does rejecting Black excellence mean to you?
This ties in completely to the conversation about being selfish. In my understanding of Black excellence, right, which I think is correct, my understanding is Black excellence prioritizes the gaze of other people, right, how other people see Black people as a whole. And by other people, I mean white people, right? The concept of Black excellence says what white people think of us is more important than what we want for ourselves. And that boils down for Black women into you have to accept the idea that you have to work twice as hard for half as much, right? This all goes in together. So once you have lived your life believing that you're supposed to work twice as hard to get half as much and, keep striving and keep struggling until you rise higher and higher in other people's opinions, right? In other people's eyes, at the cost of your own self, at the cost of your own agency, right? Once you live your life that way, you are actually upholding white supremacist ideology. If you live your life as though you are supposed to work twice as hard and get half as much, you're upholding the very thing that you hate. You're an agent for white supremacy. I think that Black excellence has done so much harm to Black women, but with a smile, right? It's been a wolf in sheep's clothing in our lives. And so I reject it. And I love to see Black women reject it. I'm a house sitter. I do as little as possible. I feel good. I know myself. I like myself. I like the way that I move throughout the world. I don't have to judge myself based on what someone else is going to think of me, how someone else is going to categorize me. I don't have to fit into a very tight, very small, very cramped box in order to value myself. Even though to Black excellence, I am useless. Mm-hmm. And it feels really good to be the boss of you. It feels really good to have agency over your life and not have Black excellence be in charge of what you do and don't do, how you look and don't look, where you go, who you associate with. If nobody is free until everybody is free, then we have to reject Black excellence, because Black excellence is only prioritizing a certain group of Black people. There are people who Black excellence is always going to exclude. You can tell that this is a thing that I really feel feelings about. There are people that Black excellence is always going to exclude. A large percentage of Black women. Is always going to exclude the single mom, the underemployed, the unemployed, the disabled. It's always going to exclude those people. So let's reject it. Let's try a new way of being. And let's let that way of being come from our own sense of self, our own agency, and not from trying to please people who we don't even care about anyway. We're not even interested in what they're talking about anyway.
Right.
And there's something.
Wow, that is such a thought-provoking perspective. Go ahead, Roshida.
There's something about Black excellence within the Black community too, because even if you don't think you're playing for the white gaze, even if you're like, oh, I don't care about them, right? The Black gaze you're playing for cares about the white gaze. It's one of those things. I talk to people when I do coaching about this, that like a fake kind of standard, because it's always going to move, right? Like if your goal, even if you don't think about it, but like if you're like, I am Black excellence, I find that most people, it's more of like they're striving for it than they actually feel like they embody it. And it's always like the next step. It's like when I ask people how much money is enough money to retire, it's always more money than they have today. And I'm like, okay, well, how much money is it? And they're like, oh, I don't know. The same way, like, no matter what your job is, if you really believe in this, like the bigger, the better, right? Like it'll never be enough. If money is what like you focus your world around, you're never going to have enough money. And so you're always going to be working harder. It's like, I was thinking about that this week when people were talking, Michelle Obama came up and, lawyer. She was, doing all the things, working at the hospital, doing all the things, first lady. And it's still not enough. People are like, she should run for president. And I'm like, that lady done said, she tired.
She don't want to do that.
But like so many people are like, that's what she should do. Stop telling Black women what they should do. Stop it.
That part.
She is she says she's tired, right? But it's never like what she has contributed is never enough, because she could do more. She could save, she could do. And it's like, for who? She has said what she needs, right? And people are putting that on her, because even that with all the things she has accomplished in her own life, mother, 2 grown children, right? All of that stuff. There's always another level. There's always another level. Yeah. There's always another. That's right. Take a nap, right? Like, right? Before you tell a Black woman what they should or should not do, go ahead and take a nap and mind your business, right? Like, we don't have to do this. If you're on the Black excellence train, there is no stop. You could always do more. You could always earn more. You could always be more prestigious. You could always vacation in fancier places with bougier Black people. Cut it. Yeah. Because there's, like I said before, there's no natural exit. You have to actually pull the brakes up and say, I'm done. Because there's no like, oh, here's an off ramp, right? There are no off ramps. You got to turn the car over, right? Turn the wheel hard and flip it and get off that highway. There's no other way.
You're absolutely right. And these are conversations that I've been having in my own circles. And what I'm hearing from a lot of my friends, a lot of those high achievers that are still based in the US, is that they're tired. They're exhausted.
But and they keep working for a little bit longer. It's all going to pay off, right? It's all going to pay off at the next promotion, It's all going to pay.
That's the lie that we're sold.
You're still going to be Black. Probably still a woman. Now what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the expectation is that we just keep going, keep working, keep striving until I guess we just fall into the grave.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's unsustainable. It's not a way to live. And what I really appreciate about what you two have created with the ExodUS Summit is it sounds like a safe space for folks to come and drop all of the pretentiousness, drop the Black excellence, drop the striving, and get real and dream and say, you know what, this is really how I want to live my life. Actually, I don't really feel like working. Actually, I want to do as least as possible. I want to eat good food, travel the world, immerse myself in cultures, and that is okay. And so this is the 5th year that the summit, that you all will be hosting the summit. How exciting. Congratulations on making it to 5 years. And it sounds like it's really evolved. And can you tell us a little bit more about the theme for this year's summit and some of the key topics and workshops that you're both excited about?
This year, we're focused on the quick exit. This year, we're focused on getting Black women and their families out of the U.S. as soon as they want to, right? As quickly as they want to. We don't know how January is going to go in the United States, but we're pretty confident in saying it's not going to be good. Okay. No matter who wins, no matter what happens, no matter who takes office, somebody going to act a fool. And so let's make our quick exit. For some women, that will be a long-term exit. For some, it'll be, a little shorter. It'll be just not being here during that time. But that's our theme for this year. We want to get Black women and their families out quickly. You don't have to, there's a misconception that there's only a certain type of person who can move abroad, right? You either have to be retired with a boatload of cash, or if you're younger, then you have to be just like an irresponsible person who's okay with leaping the net. Well, up here, we'll see what happens. But that's not how either one of us have done it. That's not how the women in our community do it. And so this year we're focused on different ways that people move abroad and different needs that you may have, your family may have, that you think are roadblocks, right? That you think are reasons you can't go, which in some cases are actually reasons why you should go. So we're focused on the roadblocks, the things that, you're not independently wealthy, you're not single, maybe, or maybe you are, you're not retired, or maybe you are, but what are the roadblocks and what are the ways that people have done the thing that you want to do, even though these hurdles were also in their path.
And it's funny because you probably see this yourself, you see a reflection of yourself in your own community. And some people think, if I don't look like the leaders of the community, it's not relevant to me. We just had a conversation this week with our friend Halisi from Our Black Utopia. And we're telling her that women come to our community who are like, oh, I'm not single, or, oh, I have kids, so I guess I can't move abroad. Now she's married and she comes across women who are saying oh, I don't have a husband, so I can't move abroad. And so because they're not seeing the possibility models that we talked about earlier in us ourselves, they think it's not applicable to us. So one of the things we love doing at ExodUS Summit is bringing in women who can tell the stories we can't tell. We have women talking about getting your children in school. We don't know about that. I couldn't tell you about getting your child into a laundromat, much less school. I just don't have it, right? I don't know. And so we have women coming in to talk about that as mothers who've raised children abroad. What is their experience like? What are the things they have to consider, et cetera, so that other mothers can see the same thing. We will have a multitude of married women coming on to talk about what it's like moving with a family. It's just, we know what we know. We talk about what we know every week on YouTube, right? But this is an opportunity for us to gather more women in more places and say, let's talk about everything. Let's talk whatever, like Stephanie said, whatever you think is the reason you can't go. Let me show you a woman who had the same situation and left, right? And maybe that's not going to convince you. Maybe you're still going to think it's not possible for you. But I've handed you an oxygen mask, right? I have handed you this mask. If you want to put it on, we are here for you. Our Facebook community is here for you. One of the things I love what our community does is they always get together and form accountability groups in these little pods. Sometimes they're large, like 40 people, and sometimes they're just like 2 people groups. But they leave the summit with like someone whose hand they can hold if they want that. And so it's just kind of all-encompassing moment of like love. That's another thing. I get really worked up when I talk about our community because it's my favorite place on the internet. And our women are from day one, have been so kind and generous to each other. Now, some of them be doing too much, like going on vacation together and not inviting us.
How dare they?
Why would you do that? Oh, I flew to so-and-so for so-and-so's birthday party. I didn't get it.
What was my invite?
And we didn't. Right? But like truly, they're starting these pods and these like family units, right, around the world. And we love it. Love it.
Yeah, we love it. Yeah, so we also have some sessions on some more universal stuff. How do you find where to go? Like, yeah, sure, it sounds good, but how do I know what my needs are? And how do I find a place that I'm going to like and that we're going to probably like? How do you investigate it? How do you like vet a city or a country that you want to move to? How do you get residency in a place? A lot of people think you need citizenship in another country. You don't. So how do you get residency in a place? So we have some more universal talks, but we do have some talks specifically for the women who already think, who may possibly think it's not possible.
That's incredible that the summit helps to demystify the exit, right? Because it can be very intimidating. And speaking of your amazing community, I happen to be a part of the ExodUS Summit community along with 18,000 other women. And so when you think about your community, what are you hearing from them lately? What's on their minds about life in the US right now, especially everything that's going on?
It's interesting because our Facebook group started as a part of the summit. We held this, our very first year, we held the summit in there. And when it was over, I was like, okay, we're going to close this group now, right, Stephanie? She was like, no, let's leave it open and see what happens. And 18,000 people later, it's a little harder to keep track of like what's going on. What we're seeing now is Black women joining at like a rate that exponentially beats what it was in the beginning. The pace at which we have to approve people to get in the group is kind of crazy now because there are so many women who are interested in this. Whereas before, I think we had to not sell it more, but like explain it more. Now women are like, oh, I'm in. Like, what do I need to do? Where do I go? Where do I sign up? Right? Like August 22nd. And we've had multiple women buy tickets on accident for this year's summit in October from like, they bought last year's ticket thinking it was this year's ticket because they are ready to go.
Yeah, so inside of our community, we're on like the second wave of like community members, I think. We had the original community members who maybe were more equipped to move quickly because they were retired already or because for some reason there were fewer hurdles in their path. Now we have women in the community who are going to need to take a few more steps, who are not it's nice for you to do it, but you had X number of dollars in the bank, it's nice for you, but you have a husband who pays for whatever, right? Now we're on to the women who are just, like everyday people who now are seeing what's possible for themselves too. So we're kind of like on the second wave. I think even in the general move abroad space, that we started to see pick up around the pandemic time. In the beginning, we saw the first people out were the people who had the means to be out, right? Who had the means to do it. And now we're seeing more people with regular jobs, people who still have to work every day, still have to log on somewhere to a job, are now the ones who are interested in it. So it's been a nice like evolution.
We're also seeing the people who are friends of the people that we helped get out already, right? Like, my girl so-and-so said you helped her. And that's we see in the second wave as well. And that's really nice.
Hey friends, I want to take a quick moment to let you know that if you want to dive deeper and unlock more advice and insights on Expat Life, then I encourage you to become a friend of the show. You'll also access other behind the scenes and bonus content you won't see anywhere else. Just head over to blackexpatstories.com/support to upgrade your access. Now, back to the show. Yeah, that must be so gratifying to see how the community has really mushroomed, right? And how the word is spreading. Now, there's been a lot of energy and discussion around VP Kamala Harris potentially becoming the first Black and South Asian woman president elected to lead the U.S. And I'm curious to hear your perspectives about how you think having her, and you hinted at it a little bit, Stephanie, but how do you think having her as a president might change the outlook for Black folks in the States? Or do you think it would change the outlook?
In general, in my life, I am a very hopeful person. I was traveling when all the tech stuff went down, and I was like, oh, I think it'll work out tomorrow, right? In general, I'm a hopeful person, but I tend to not be hopeful in terms of what people in the United States of America are capable of. Let me just say this. I don't have a lot of hope that things are going to just be great. Mm-hmm. I don't have a lot of hope that people are going to just be okay with us having a Black and brown woman president. I don't think that, and I think to expect it is unfounded. There's you have no reason to expect things to go smoothly based on past history, based on current events, based on recent history. You have no reason to expect things to be good.
I find it interesting that people are so hopeful about not about her presidency or the election, but about life post her election. Yeah. Because a lot of stuff started going. A lot of people started crawling out the woodworks when Obama got elected, right? Like the racists came out extra. They said, oh, a Black man in a tan suit in the white. Oh, no, we can't have that.
Right? The whole birther movement was born.
Right. And now with her, it's, the negative things about being Black and Asian or both. Although, how could that be true, right? Like the negative things about that, the negative things about her as a woman and like how she got to her position, all of those things as a Black woman, they take a toll on me, right? Like when I have to hear, but she slept her way to the top, because there's no way a Black woman could otherwise be successful. I'm like, what are people saying about me when like they look at what I've done in my life? You know what I mean? Like it's that hearing that over and over and over again is toxic. And her success, fingers crossed, isn't going to do away with the toxicity. Right before we came on, I got an email from someone. I sent an email today about a move abroad program I run. And someone responded that like they had plans to move abroad, but they put them all on hold. It is all Kamala from here on. They don't want to hear nothing from me. They are doing the work, they're in. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what's she doing for you? And that's not to say that like her policies aren't going to help you or that her presidency isn't important for the country. It's just that if you put all your eggs in this basket, right? When she gets elected, what does your omelet look like? Right? Like what's your life going to be like if you've put everything that you need for yourself on hold for this important thing, right? I'm not going to say it's not important, but like you also have to remember who you are and where you are, right? America's not going to get better, right, on January 7th or November or whatever. Like no matter who wins, they're still shooting people in the streets, right? They're still shooting people in church and grocery stores. That's not going to be over because she's elected. So putting your life or your dreams on hold, are you going to be starting from scratch after she gets elected? After the first terrible thing happens, after she gets elected, are you going to be is that when you're going to start your plan? I saw the email and I was like, okay. Like, all right.
We have a real tie. Black women, we're so tied and connected to keeping this country alive the way it exists. Even though it hasn't done anything for you. It hasn't done anything for you. It hasn't worked. It's not working out well for you, but we're so committed to it without any cause. If this was a marriage, nobody would say stay. Right? Nobody would be like, well, you can't trust him or you can't trust them. There's never been any payoff. You've given so much. You're not getting anything in return. But maybe give it another 4 years. Let's see what happens. It is toxic. It is an abusive relationship. And I mean, you could try to shine it up, but the foundation is rotten. Mm-hmm. So it really is okay. It really is okay to do something better. People, as long as humans have had feet, we have moved to a new place for a better life. It's okay to move to a new place for a better life. Mm-hmm. You're no less deserving than anybody else.
Mm-mm. I also hear people.
Thank you for saying that.
I also hear people say things like, I'm not leaving without my reparations. Okay. You're not going nowhere. Like,
right. You'll be staying right there.
Right. I don't
the way it's looking
about it, but like America has paid reparations before to people.
It has.
Right.
Not to us though.
Right. Like
we could,
to people who were injured later than we were. If reparations were going to be paid, they would be paid already. Right.
That's right.
So
that's right.
And if you are
be here,
ACH. Right. Send that right to my bank. You said everything.
Wire transfer me.
The IRS could take money out of my bank. You can surely send money to me. Right. Like,
right.
It happened.
Right.
So
absolutely.
That's right.
So it's really fascinating how you received that email from that person who said, I had plans to blaxit, but because of VP Harris running, it's on hold. How do you think it might impact the blaxit movement if she wins? And then conversely, how do you think it'll impact it if the other party wins?
Overall, I think there won't be a whole lot of, it's not like people are going to stop moving abroad. It's not like Black people are all, things are not going to improve so fundamentally in the country that people are just going to stop moving abroad. Some people may delay. Some people might want to put it off. And I think some people will rush and move a little faster. I don't mean rush, but I mean, some people will want to move a little faster because I don't have a whole lot of hope for no matter who wins. I don't have a lot of hope that there will be any foundational, fundamental change in the people or the system of government. I don't know. I don't think it'll cause that much of a delay it was not going to cease the movement of Black people moving abroad. The exodus is still going to happen, may happen on a different timeline.
And I think her campaign is bringing a level of joy into the U.S. that we haven't, into the political conversation that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
But if she wins, she's still going to be president. And I mean, have we ever had a president who wasn't a war criminal? Like, I think what I mean is that, like, I think she's new and shiny in a way right now. And after a few years, she's going to be making tough decisions and she's going to be less new and shiny, right? Like, and not that she doesn't deserve our support or that there's a better option out there, but like, your president's going to piss you off at some point, right? And so,
right.
No matter how hard you work for her right now, if you are realistic about what happens in our political sphere, you will see her making this. If she wins, you will see her making decisions that you don't support.
Yeah,
it happens.
Right.
It happens with every. I saw people fawning all over Clinton last night at the DNC, and I was like, "Oh, maybe forget
how quickly we forget."
You know, like, okay,
how quickly we forget.
Maybe I'm old, but like, okay, I'm not even gonna hate. I'm just gonna be like, okay.
Yeah.
Governor Walz, he seems to be a really nice person, but Minnesota has perpetrated some of the most egregious murders of Black people that we know, right? And he seems like a nice guy.
Fun.
It's the foundation. It's not the person. It's not just the person. It's the foundation. It's the system. It's the country. Okay. The problem is the country, not just the leader, but in its marrow, inside of it, in the heart of it. It's rotten. It's rotten.
Yeah. And Stephanie, you know, I always say that you cannot reform rotten. You just can't.
Write that down. Have you?
I would caution folks. I haven't, but you are welcome to share that. And I would really caution folks against just leaning on the optics, especially right now in their decision making, because Roshida, you're absolutely right. Whoever gets into that office will have to make some tough decisions. And will those decisions align with your values? That's what you have to ask yourself, right? It's going to be interesting to watch for sure. And it is refreshing to see the joy and the elation and the excitement and the energy around this particular campaign. But we cannot lose sight of, you know, what you said, Stephanie, the system and how rotten it is. And we cannot delude ourselves into thinking that one person is going to change that overnight.
Yeah. We still got the Supreme Court.
That's right.
Like, what are we going to do about that? They're not all right at once. But if you would like to, like, it's time for some fresh blood. No, but like, you're right. It's rotten, and there's very little that we can vote, right? But Black people have been voting as long as Black people can vote, and look at us, right? I'm not saying don't vote. I'm saying that, like, even now, our elected officials rarely do what we want them to do. And there's very little reason to believe that when you vote for the next one, all of a sudden they're going to be different. Obama wasn't different.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
There's good reasons to criticize him and what he did in office. But listen, I'm in Mexico, right? I am in Mexico.
Me too, sis.
Right.
So, living our best lives. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Best life.
Yeah. Now, some critics argue that the blaxit, or exiting the United States, is about abandoning the fight for equality. How do you respond to that? And what would you say to Black women or Black folks in general who feel conflicted about leaving?
Go someplace where you don't have to fight for equality.
Or think about how long you've been fighting and how far from equality you are. Like, if you're in your 50s, you've been fighting probably for at least 45 years, like actively feeling the inequality. How much closer are you to what this utopia, this equality? Is it going to happen in the next 5 years? Is equality around the corner? Because I don't have 5 more years to fight in me. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. One of the other criticisms I actually want to bring up now that you mentioned that is colonization, right? That we're just the new colonizers.
Yes, let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about it. Which we're not. I love it. People say, "Oh, they're not talking about us," but they absolutely are. In the sense that, like, you're part of the foreigner group, and if you act like them others, they're gonna treat you like those others. And sometimes people aren't trying to discern who is who, right? You're here. I believe you have more money than I do. You know what I mean? Like that could be what the locals are saying. A lot of times in the global view, Americans are flattened into people with a lot of money, and people, especially in the global South, are flattened into people with very little money. And so there's an inequality. There's a inequality that exists in kind of the realm of thought. Whether it's actually exists person to person seems to be discounted a lot of times. But yeah, some people move funny abroad. Some people go abroad and it's like they want to be the colonizers, but it's not Black, so I couldn't do that, right? And some people move mindfully. And part of what we talk about in Exodus Summit is moving mindfully, moving to a place where, like, you are moving to a place where you don't have to fight for equality, but you are moving to a place where you're not stepping on someone else's rights or making it harder for someone who was here before you. And so that's really important to us as well, that, like, people are being good citizens wherever they go, whatever that means in that local place.
Because we have learned from the colonizers, we do know how to go someplace and really take advantage of people and exploit people and exploit the income, the inequalities, right? And so we do have to be very mindful. We have to be very careful. We have to make sure that we're putting ourselves in community with people when we go places and not staying on the fringes and then taking over. because Black people have colonized places, right? Liberia exists, right? And has multiple civil wars under their belt because we have learned how to colonize, and we do know how to do it. We do have to be mindful. We do have to be careful. And one of the first things that a lot of people talk about when they talk about going abroad is, oh, when they go somewhere and buy some land. And I'm like, red flag, red flag. Take it easy.
Right.
Belong, be a part of the community before you start trying to buy the community.
Mm-hmm.
Take some time, live in a place, get in community with people before you start talking about how you can own some stuff there.
I'm so happy that you both brought this up because, like I said, it's been quite the conversation. And, during my NPR interview a couple months ago, I mentioned this and I said, look, gentrification and colonization, those are not foregone conclusions for migration. We don't have to do it that way, right? And moving mindfully is something that we should be doing. And I'm happy to know that you both are intentional about spreading that message too and taking that approach because it's so important. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the practical side of things, because I know that some who are watching and listening are like, okay, this is great, but like, how I'm overwhelmed by the idea of leaving so quickly, right? Because you both are talking about, pressing fast forward on the exit, on the exodus. And for some who might think, oh, I don't know if I can do it that quickly, what are some smaller steps they can take now to start preparing, even if they're not ready for a full move right now?
One of the first things I think you can do is really take stock of the life you're living and compare that to the life you want to live. And not unlike I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with, 3 people, and I'd like to be living on a yacht in the Riviera, because maybe we all would, right? But like, what does your rent cost now? And if you moved abroad, what are some rents you could be paying, right? Like, what's the difference? A lot of times, because we've been talking about this for a long time, both of us, a lot of times what I see getting in people's way is either their imagination or their lack of imagination. Facts are what's getting in the way. They're not doing the research. I would say you got to run the numbers. You have to figure out what things cost. What do you actually pay now? What could you pay abroad? What, you know what I mean? Like, break it down in a way so you know the actual facts, right? Like, what is it going to cost me to live in this city? What would it cost to live in Playa del Carmen, right? What would it cost to live somewhere else? Get that information. There's lots of sites where you can do that. You can just Google it. Lots of good sites for that. And then do that comparison. How much money do I have saved? Most people don't know how much money they have saved or how much they owe, right? Like, most people, it's just like numbers that I choose not to see, right? Put the blinders on, numbers. But when you do that, it gives you a much better understanding of what it will take for you to move abroad, because we can talk about all the things you could do, but money is important, right? Like, all the ways you can make this happen, you can make it happen with little money, but not no money, right? Like, you got to eat, you got to sleep somewhere, right? And so money is important to this. And so I would say one of the first things to do is kind of get a better hold of your money, what you have now and what you need for where you want to go.
And then get in community with some people in some places that you are interested in going to. You're going to be able to get much better info about, like, what does rent really cost? What are people paying on the ground? Not what the internet says, not what somebody paid 10 years ago, but what are your friends, your peers paying right now? Get in community with people wherever, any place that you're thinking about moving to. There are expats there, and there are probably a lot of Black expats there. Mm-hmm. And they have expat groups and they have Black expat groups. And so get in community with people and start listening, ask some questions, go visit, but don't count yourself out. Yeah, don't just assume that it's not going to work for you.
And if you see one person and you tell yourself, I can't do what they did because they're X and I'm Y, find a Y. Baby, there's a Y out there living your dream life right now. Just do some more Googling and look for someone who's moved abroad with a child, with the disability, with the husband, which is almost the same thing, with whatever, you know what I mean? Like, just find the thing, find the person.
That's right.
Sorry, I said that. Yeah, like, look for your possibility models. Look for someone who you can look at and say, oh, I can do that too, and see what they did, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
If you're not sure where you want to go, join some of the more general groups for expats. If you're a woman and Black, come to ExodUS Summit Facebook.
Yes. Along with a wonderful supportive community of 18,000 plus women. And I'm really glad that you both mentioned those things, because people ask me all the time, like, how can I do it? And I'm not a relocation specialist. I don't claim to be, but it's one of the reasons why I created this platform, because as you mentioned earlier about those possibility models, I believe it's incredibly difficult to be what you can't see. And so what you are demonstrating with creating ExodUS Summit and the community around it, what I'm doing here with Black expat stories and amplifying the journeys of everyday people who have done it, this is an opportunity for folks to really tune in and see how they can do it. You don't have to be a social media influencer. You don't have to be an A-lister, celebrity. You don't have to be independently wealthy to do this. There are so many other ways, especially given the proliferation of technology and how, the nature of work has changed. And so many of us have now been untethered from physical workspaces. Now, I think is as good a time as any to move. Would you agree?
I think so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the remote work has changed a lot of possibilities for people.
Mm-hmm. It changed my life. And I've been working remotely since 2015 as an entrepreneur. But my husband, it was only recently that he started working fully remotely after the pandemic. And when that opportunity came, when that window opened, I was like, let's go. And we have not looked back. So it is completely possible for sure.
Can I ask a question? Because I'm nosy.
Yeah.
Were you the engine that drove your family's move abroad?
Oh, I was. Yes, absolutely.
That's why we go to Black women. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Yes.
So rare. It's very, very, like 1 out of every 20 like husband and wife duos will say like the husband was the one who pushed it. Every other time it's the woman.
Yep.
I feel like we're really helping, like ExodUS Summit is for Black women and families in a sense, but like we want the woman to show up because we know that when they get the information and they get the resources and they get that push, they will also push the family.
That's so true. And even market research bears it out in the data, right? I think over 80% of, consumer decisions are made by women. Mm-hmm. And we're leading the charge in this. I've talked to so many more women than men on this journey. And, my husband was reluctant at first because he was like, oh, we need to do our research. We need to wait and see. And, I pretty much pressed the fast forward button on that. I was like, let's go now, and thankfully he was open to it. Thankfully he was in a position in his career where he could do it. Mm-hmm. As well. And he was supportive. He trusted me enough to know that I wasn't going to, lead us into some craziness. So shout out to my husband, because I know not everybody has that level of support. But I also want to be an example to folks who may have spouses and partners who aren't as enthusiastic, who ain't thinking about leaving, and saying it's completely possible. And now this man is living his best life. He's gone to play pickleball right now with his friends
while you're working.
That's right.
Yeah, see?
That's right.
So it really has elevated every aspect of our quality of life, and it's been one of the best moves that we could have made for ourselves individually and for our marriage.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So one of the fascinating aspects of this journey is that it often leads to personal reinvention. I feel like I'm a whole new woman now that I have been living here in Mexico for 3.5 years. Stephanie, you found success as a house sitter and online educator, coach. Roshida, same. You're not a house sitter, but you are a coach, and you pivoted, from law. So For those who might be yearning for a change and they might feel stuck or scared, what wisdom can you share about embracing reinvention?
I think it's easier to build the second time around, right? Or the third or the fourth or the fifth. You know what you experience, you know what you don't like. A lot of times, especially in the US, where you live depends on where you went to school or your job, right? Like who your friends with are, same school, job, maybe church. All of those things are like, there's rarely a point where you get to say like, I am now Courtney and this is my new life, right? Like this is my new life. Or these are the things that I like. I always say that like you go to a new place, you can be whoever you want, right? You could change your name. Now you go by your middle name. Who gonna check you, right? You get to start over with the things that you like and leaving behind the things you don't like. And not in like a psychotic, she's someone brand new every kind of like 3 months kind of thing, which I don't know how crazy that is. Like I might kind of support that. Now that I've said it, I might kind of support that. But it's so much easier to change when you're starting over with new people than changing when you're around the old people who've known you for 20 years. They might be like, Courtney, you doing what? You podcast, right? Like, but new Courtney with the podcast, they're like, yes, of course it makes sense, right? And I just think it's so much easier to create a new life when you're starting from scratch.
Absolutely. We just don't, I said this already, we don't realize how much of our lives we didn't even choose, right? We didn't even choose. Roshida and I interviewed a woman named JC one time, and she said, when I traveled, I realized I wasn't that much of an introvert. I had to protect in my life. She said in her life, she always had to protect herself. And what she thought was personality, her personality traits, was really just her armor to protect herself in an environment where she couldn't be her real self. It was like an armor. And there's a lot of that going on. We don't know. You won't know. I think you can't know yourself as a Black woman. You can't fully know yourself in such a hostile environment. You need to be in a more peaceful environment. See who you really are. See who's really in there. Reinvention is real, but it comes from the inside. It starts on the inside. Not even though you're in a different environment, it doesn't come from the outside. It's what's already in here that has not been allowed to live, has not been allowed to thrive. It's been choked, the weeds are choking out the real you. So being in a new place does mean that you can be a new person, but that new person is you. You just haven't met her. You really haven't talked to her yet. You haven't met her yet. She's not in charge yet. She hasn't had agency yet, but she will, and she's going to love it. She's going to love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, discovering who that person is after being repressed for so long, I can honestly say it has shifted the way that I see myself and how I show up in the world. And I want that for everybody, however they can get it, whether it's moving abroad or staying put or pivoting professionally. It is so worth it. It's so worth it. Now, looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of ExodUS Summit? I 5 years in being a part of this incredible community and with so many inspirational workshops and breakout sessions and panels, how do you see this thing that you both have birthed evolving to meet the changing needs of Black women seeking to live abroad?
If COVID would let us live, we would love to do a whole lot more in-person stuff. But Lord have mercy, I don't know. Getting thousands of people together doesn't seem like the best choice. I don't know. We would love to do more community-focused work, right? More things for the women inside of our community, more making sure that they are connecting with each other, and more of us getting to see them, because sometimes they're out here winning and living, and we just don't know it because they haven't reported back. So being able to spend more time with them would be awesome, so we can get some updates.
Mm-hmm. I think also, we haven't talked about this, but I feel like part of our future is making ourselves not irrelevant, but like unnecessary, right? Yeah. We have so many people who started their sabbatical or move abroad journey in our community who now help other people with their sabbatical or move abroad journey. And it never feels like competition to me. It feels like, oh, that's someone who can reach a woman I was never going to reach, right? That is someone who can help a woman who would never hear the words as they come out of my mouth. And I hope that Stephanie and I both like to do very little.
Not much.
I want to be that on a boat somewhere. That's what we want for our lives. And so if we're not doing this in 10 years because other people have taken over and like, especially babies that we've birthed, please and thank you. Please and thank you. Right? I don't know. It's not the kind of thing where we could like hand it to someone right now, but like seeing all the people holding, like that we've held their hand and now they're holding someone else's hand as they go through the journey. It's what we want, right? It's what we want to see. We want to see these women helping other women so that, you know, we're not still doing Exodus Summit in 2034, 2035.
Yeah.
I want to be right?
Yeah. It would be awesome
Yeah.
not be right? To not be needed anymore. It would be awesome. And maybe ponies. Also, Roshida, ponies?
I feel like I've moved up to a big horse.
Oh, you want a full size?
Horse?
I feel like I want a full-size horse. And maybe a race car.
Yeah,
And a race car.
those things would be
I got a pony, I got a race car. Good.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good.
And you know, maybe 10 years from now, there will be an emancipation summit, right? So folks can, you know, that you've helped exit, celebrate their newfound freedom. Because you're right. I think that as we continue to live and as, you know, migration patterns continue to change, I think that the Exodus Summit will still be necessary, but maybe just in a revamped way. Maybe the Emancipation Summit.
I love notes. You know,
I already wrote it down. I like the way that sounds, but maybe somebody else know how to do it. Get somebody else to do it.
Because you've already done so much for us. I hear that.
But like, so it's funny. We lead very, very blessed lives in that we do as little as possible. I would say November through August. But you're talking to us in August now, and this is our hard working season. And we're only like 5 days into hard work season already. Like, what? Another meeting? My God. So, you know, whenever somebody's ready to say like, y'all ain't got to do nothing no more, I got this. Take it away.
Gladly. That's right. Gladly.
That's right. Because, you know, again, our ancestors did not dream of labor.
No.
And, you know, I, for one, would love to be on somebody's yacht on an island, sipping a mimosa with my flowy resort wear.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Resort wear. I love it.
Permanent. That's the permanent state. That's right.
permanent. That's right. Because we deserve it.
You deserve
We
That's it.
deserve it.
And you don't
We
have
are worthy of it.
don't have to do anything to deserve it. Just
Come on.
a live Black woman. I want everything for you. I want everything.
Yeah.
All the good.
Stephanie and Roshida, thank you so much for sharing your perspective, for taking the time to chat with me today. This was such an inspiring, enlightening, and empowering conversation. And I hope those who are watching and listening, who are considering a move abroad, will consider also attending this year's Exodus Summit. And can you share the dates for that and where folks can secure their spot?
It is October 11th through 14th.
Yeah, check out the show notes here on this podcast episode so that you can use Courtney's exact link to get over to Exodus Summit.
And
There is a way.
Yes.
Yeah, you can you can do something nice for her by using her link.
Yes.
Not going to cost you any extra, but she would really appreciate it. So do it that way. Go to the show notes, click on her link, use it. Thank you.
You do like money, right?
Thank you, ladies. I love money and I don't turn it down. Okay. So
Courtney's link because she likes money and I like money too. So, you know what's funny is that this is the first time in my life where I've had the ability to just give Black women money in a way that like, and not in like a onesie, twosie kind of way, but like everybody gets to eat, right? And there's something that is, it's a cheat code that nobody ever told us about. Like paying, as a Black woman, paying other Black women, sending you that PayPal cash, right? Finding a way for you to eat when we eat is, I was like, why do white men so stingy when this feels so good? Oh, this feels so good.
Yes.
Corporations acting, why? It feels good. Why y'all acting like it's hard to pay somebody a bonus or something? Give them a little extra cheese on their burger.
Right. But you know, I have a theory. I think that as Black women, we are multipliers. We just increase and we bring value to every space that we find ourselves in. And so when you're able to pay another Black woman, she's then going to do the same thing most of the time. Right. And we can count on each other to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I love being a Black woman and I love being in community with Black women.
Yes.
We love it.
Absolutely. Nothing like it. Nothing like it.
Nothing like it. And speaking of community, even if you are listening or watching this after the summit is already over, I encourage you to join Roshida and Stephanie's incredible ExodUS Summit community over on Facebook, along with 18,000 plus, might be even more than this by the time you you get to it, other women who are supporting each other in making their exit strategy happen and bringing it to life. So Roshida and Stephanie, again, thank you for the incredible work that you're doing. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Thank you so much. Our pleasure. We're so glad that we got an opportunity to talk with you finally. Thank you.
Yes. You know what? I could not continue doing this without talking to the both of you. Oh. And I'm really happy that we got a chance to connect.
Here too. Thank you so much for this.
Thanks for listening and watching as we continue exploring the journeys of Black expats finding freedom, healing, and belonging across the globe. Are you feeling inspired to embark on your own expat journey? Hit subscribe to join the conversation and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Black Expat Stories for sneak peeks and more expat insights. Now, if these conversations resonate and you want to help this platform grow, then I encourage you to become a friend of the show. Not only will you enjoy early ad-free access to new episodes, exclusive bonus content, and behind-the-scenes glimpses, you'll also be supporting our mission to amplify the voices of the pioneers at the vanguard of the next great migration. Just head to blackexpatstories.com/support to join our growing community. However you choose to connect, keep your passport ready and your dreams without borders. Until next time, I wish you peace, love, and passport stamps.